Marie, and somehow we've made it to the end of summer, which means it's time for another book haul. These are all the books I acquired between the start of December and the end of February. And you know, I think I've done really well. There are only 17 books, which is kind of almost a miracle given that my birthday and Christmas and the post-Christmas sales all happened within that period. So it could have been a lot worse. But it's actually a very manageable number and I'm kind of proud of myself. So there are a few physical books, a couple of audiobooks, a couple of ebooks, quite a wide variety of things. So let's start with the audiobooks. I got two over this summer period. The first was in the dying days of 2022. I picked up Soft Lad by Nick Grimshaw, which is a memoir of him basically growing up in northern England around Manchester, and coming to terms with his sexuality and how he realised his dream of hosting the BBC Radio 1 breakfast show, which he did for several years. I can't remember how many years it was exactly. I think it was like 7, something ridiculous like that. But I started listening to him, I don't even know when, 2017-ish? I listened to him for a couple of years before he left the show. And it was funny because he hosted the breakfast show in London and I'm in Australia, so I would have to listen to it at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I would listen every day. And so when I found out that he'd written a book, of course, I grabbed it. I listened to the audiobook, as I said, and that was really great because he read it himself, so it flowed very naturally. It was great to hear him tell the stories in his own voice. And it was only 6 hours or so, so that was great. Love that. I think it might have even been my favourite book of December in the end, so great. Second audiobook I grabbed was Spare by Prince Harry. Yes, I know, everyone and their dog has read this book. But I haven't talked about it much because, I don't know, it's a weird one to comment on. I think there are a lot of people who have a lot of valid comments about it, and I don't feel like I can add to that conversation, so I just haven't really said much. But I'm sort of fascinated by this period that the royal family is going through at the moment, so I decided to read it, or listen to it in this case. It was, it was fine. I had issues with the structure of it more than anything, but, it wasn't the worst book I've ever read, so what more can you say, really? If you do want to hear more about Spare, I do encourage you to look up reviews. There are several on Goodreads that particularly touch on the racism aspect that Harry comments on through the book. So there's a lot there that you can find if it's something that you're interested in hearing more about, but it's not really my place to comment on. For the most part, it's sort of the through line is the relationship between the media, particularly the tabloids, and the British royal family. So that was pretty interesting to read about. But like I said, it wasn't the best book I've ever read. It wasn't the worst book, so it was just kind of a 3 stars. I guess I'm glad I read it, although it did take several days to get through, but, Moving on. Let's go into ebooks. I got 3. So, following the usual pattern, Sean and Maguire released the next book in the Wayward Children series. This was book 8. It was called Lost in the Moment and Found. This is a portal fantasy series of novellas, basically, about kids who don't really fit into their real world lives and find doors, literal doors, that take them into different worlds where they fit better. But then they come back and have to try and re-assimilate into reality. This one was quite good, actually. I enjoyed it. It touched on a number of heavy topics, actually, this one in particular. But I liked it. I thought it was interesting. This particular world for this installment was like a shop of lost things, and this shop had different doors that would appear throughout the day that would take the people in the shop to various other worlds, some of which we'd seen in previous installments in the series. So that was quite cool. I did enjoy it, although thinking about it now, this is one that would have been fun as more of a full-length novel, just because there's so much more potential for interaction with the other worlds, and seeing how those worlds could have affected the character would have been interesting, but that's not really how this series works. So I did enjoy it. It's been good to see that the last couple of books have been stronger than sort of the middle ones were. They took a bit of a dip in quality, I thought, but these ones have been quite good to read. So I'm hopeful that as we near the end of the series, we'll finish on a high. The other two ebooks I don't really know much about. So one was The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. I haven't read this one yet. I bought it because last year I became a massive TJ Klune fan. I think this one has something to do with gaming or gamers or fandoms. I don't really know. I just bought it because he wrote it. And I've liked most of his other books in the past that I have now read. In fact, I think there's only one series that he's written that I haven't enjoyed. So that's pretty good odds in my opinion. The other book was The Wolf at the Door by Charlie Adhara. I know even less about this book. I think I saw this one recommended by someone. I believe it's an adult paranormal romance that involves werewolves, maybe? And I think there's possibly a murder mystery or some kind of detective kind of character. I don't really know. But I'm pretty sure there's at least one werewolf in it. Traditionally, werewolves have never really been my thing as far as supernatural creatures go, but I read TJ Klune's Green Creek series last year and fell in love with it. And that's about werewolves. So maybe it's a thing that I've become interested in. I don't know. I'm eager to read Wolf at the Door, actually, because I think it's his first book in a series. So if I like that one, hopefully I can get to the others, and that would be a lot of fun. So we'll see. In terms of physical books, a lot of them are books I've received through the Unplugged book box. So I've got 3 that I received in my regular monthly subscription. I think the first one was The Secret of Yanagi by Amber A. Logan. This is a retelling of The Secret Garden, but set in Japan. I haven't read this one yet. I think of the 3 that I received in the monthly subscription this season, this is the one I'm least interested in, just because Japan is not an area of interest for me. I don't know why, it's just not. Some people are obsessed with Japan. I have no interest in it one way or the other. Although, nothing against Japan or the Japanese people, I'm sure they're great, but, you know, it's just not really an area of interest for me. That being said, I do like The Secret Garden, so maybe I'll like this one after all. Who knows? Then I received A Lust for Blood by Casey Smith. This is, I think, a fantasy about some kind of demon witch creature woman who traps herself in a forest to protect people from herself. And then I think there's some kind of demon hunter who is looking either for her specifically or for the creature that she is and doesn't know that it's her. From the sound of the blurb, it also sounds like there's going to be some kind of romance element between them. I haven't read this one either. I have seen other people who've read it since receiving it in the Unplugged box, and they seem to like it, but and I say this with nothing against those people, but I'm a very critical reader. I think it's just a professional hazard, and so, you know, there are a lot of things that most people either don't notice or don't care about when they're reading that I just can't let go. And I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like this book is going to have some of those elements in it. But it looks nice. And it could be cool if the sort of witchy demon creature woman is written in an interesting way. And if the romance is not like, you know, super saccharine or like one of those love at first sight situations. But I don't know, we'll see. And the last monthly subscription book was The Sleepless by Victor Manibo. I only got this like a week ago, and it's like a futuristic science fiction, speculative fiction, dystopian situation about a plague or some kind of pandemic that sweeps through the world and results in a significant portion of the population not being able to sleep anymore, as in they don't need to sleep. And then there's something about the main character's boss turns up dead, and the implication is that it was self-caused, but the main character believes that that's not the case and proceeds to investigate. So this one could be quite gritty and interesting. I think of the three, this is the one I'm more likely to pick up first. So I might try to get to this one soon, actually, now that I think about it, but I'm not sure at this point. I have no firm reading plans. The other fun Unplugged thing that happened this season is that in December I got a 12 days of Advent box, and every day for 12 days leading up to Christmas I got to unwrap a little gift, and two of those gifts were books. If you're interested in seeing the unboxing, I documented it on my Instagram stories. On my profile there's a highlight for it, so you can catch up there if you missed it. It was great fun. The first book I received was A Curse in Ash by Julie Santopoulos. This is, I believe, a adult fantasy romance about fae, and there's a witch in it and a handsome stranger, and that's what I'm getting from the blurb. It does say the first in an adult contemporary fantasy series with romance. So I haven't given this one any thought, actually. Maybe I should read this one next. The text is quite big, so that's quite good. It means I can get through it quickly. Yeah, I haven't given this book much thought, actually. I don't really know anything about it. I haven't really seen it anywhere. I haven't heard anything about it one way or the other, so it might be fun. Yeah, maybe I'll read this one soon. There you go. That's how I decide how to read my books, just on a whim one day in the middle of doing nothing. The other Advent box book I received was 4 Ways to Wear a Dress by Gillian Libby. This is a contemporary romance, pretty standard, I would think, about a woman named Millie who moves from New York to California. And it sounds like it's like a best friend's sibling romance trope. And it also looks like there's fake dating involved. But that's, again, just what I'm getting from the blurb, because I haven't read this one either. I should maybe try and read this one soon, because it sounds like quite a good summer read. Not that I am usually influenced by the seasons in my book choices. It's just not something that happens to me. Other people seem to be quite seasonal in their reading. Some people read, cozy books during the winter, or, sort of beachy reads during the summer. I just read anything whenever. It doesn't bother me. But I don't know. This one seems a bit more, I don't want to use the term generic because it sounds insulting, but generic in its approach. But maybe it'll be just, quick and fun. We'll see. So then, in terms of the books that I guess chose myself, I got 4 of those this season. The first one is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is a hard one to talk about. It's just a really weird story about a woman named Reagan and a man named Aldo. And they meet in a museum. And Reagan is a bipolar, sort of reformed counterfeit artist. She's doing court-ordered therapy. And Aldo is a college lecturer, but one of those ones who's still studying at the same time. I can't remember what it's called. And he's very structured in his approach to life. She is very chaotic, and they sort of become obsessed with each other. And it's the story of how they basically fall in love. I've seen a lot of things about this book. Everyone online seems to be obsessed with it. And I am not. I bought this because I read Olivia Blake's The Atlas 6 last year and really loved it. Haven't read the sequel yet. It's on my to-do list. But this one sounded quite interesting when I read the blurb for it, so I bought it. And I don't think I liked it very much. I initially gave it 3 stars because I didn't know what else to rate it. I couldn't decide. This is the first book, I think, that I've ever read and genuinely considered leaving it deliberately unrated because I just didn't know how I felt about it when I was finished. But I gave it a 3 stars. And then after thinking about it for a few days, I dropped it down to 2 stars, which I think is where I'll leave it because I didn't dislike it. The characters were interesting. They were fascinating, but I didn't like them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Unlikable characters do exist. But I just couldn't tell if I was supposed to like them, is the problem. And yeah, this was a hard one. It was also just a hard book to read. It just left me feeling fuzzy in my brain every time I put it down because I just kind of, it felt like hard work reading this book on several levels. So yeah, this was a weird one. I'm not going to keep this book, I've already decided. When I do my annual unhaul at the end of the year, this one will get donated unless someone that I know wants it. But yeah, this was a strange book and kind of disappointing, if I'm being honest, because I really thought I was going to love it, and I didn't. I also grabbed Clockwork Boys by T. Kingfisher. This is book 1 in the Clocktor War series. So T. Kingfisher is, I feel like, an author who just sort of came out of nowhere in the last year or so. I'd never heard of her, and then all of a sudden she was everywhere. I know she wrote Nettle and Bone, and something else that I can't remember the name of. That, I think, defensive baking book, maybe. This one is, it just, I don't know, it just sounded like the one that was most interesting to me. So it involves a paladin, an assassin, a forger, and a scholar, who are on an espionage mission. They're thrown together to figure out some mechanical soldier issue that's happening. I'm not really sure. But it sounds like fun. I've never read T. Kingfisher before. I don't know if this is the one that I should have started with, but it's the one that I've got. So I'm hopeful. If nothing else, it sounds like it could be just a fun read. So it might be good. It might also open the doorway to more Kingfisher books for me. Let's hope. I've also got One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I'm quite excited to read this one, actually. Maybe I should read this one next. It's becoming a problem. Okay. So this is about a woman named Elspeth, and she has a spirit trapped in her head, which she calls the Nightmare. And I think it gives her some kind of dark magic, maybe. So she meets a highwayman in the forest, and they embark on a dangerous quest to cure the town of Blunder from the dark magic infecting it. And then it says something about the nightmare slowly taking over her mind. And it's described as a gothic fantasy debut. So I remember seeing this on Goodreads months ago, and I instantly put it on my TBR, and I grabbed it in the post-Christmas sale. And first of all, I love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. And I don't know, there was something about the blurb that really grabbed me. I thought it sounded quite cool. So hopefully it is. It's in first person, which is annoying, because I've sort of gone off first person, but that's fine. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about it. I hope it's good. The last book is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. If you want to talk about gorgeous covers, this one is amazing. I don't really know anything about this one either, except that it's chunky. It's a fantasy book. It's the first in a series. It's about a person named Ren who is a con artist. And she's trying to trick her way into a noble house to secure her fortune and her sister's future. Something about magic, city of dreams, poisonous feuds of the nobility, shadowy dangers of the impoverished underbelly. It sounds like a pretty sort of it sounds like a fantasy with those sort of staple fantasy tropes, which is great, you know, always love those. I don't really know much about this one either. I think this one might have a female-female romance in it. I don't remember where I heard or read that, so I might be completely wrong. But there's something in the back of my brain saying this one has a female-female romance, but I can't comment on that at the moment, because, again, I haven't read it. I don't know when I'm going to read this one. I would like to read it soonish, but it is on the longer side, which is going to be a problem for me. 643 pages, including a glossary. So, yeah, it's a long one. And it's not a good time for me to be reading long books at the moment, because too many doesn't matter. I need to find time when I'm motivated to read something like this, which is annoying, but that's just the way it goes. And that's it. Those are all the books that I acquired in the summer months. Once again, I'm pretty proud of myself. I mean, I did buy all of them technically because I paid for the unplugged boxes, but it feels different because I could have gone online or gone to a bookstore and purchased more books just because, but I didn't. So, we're calling this one a win. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed having a look at all the books I bought over the summer. Let me know if you've read any of them, or if you're hoping to read any of them. I would love to know what you think. Until then, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye!